Hey, it's Albert with Two Tribes Primal Living, and boy, the world's gone and gotten itself into a hell of a mess. Um, even us being out here off grid in the mountains, 9,000 feet up in elevation, and we know what's going on. We see what's going on. Um, I mean, it's like the world's lost its mind, and literally that is what has happened is the world has lost its mind, and things are happening right now for a reason. um, they're not this is not something that should be new to any of us. This is something that we've all been warned about, uh, whether it was through prophecy, through the Bible, or astrologers, understanding how the energies of the planets and the lining up of the planets in certain ways, um, or just intuition as a human on this earth. Um, when I say that the world has lost its mind, that is that's truth, because when you understand how and you've studied how the universe works, you'll understand it. There's certain laws that the universe operates on, and one of those laws is mentalism. The universe is mental, which means everything that you see around you, everything that exists, from here on this earth to other planets to things floating around in the cosmos. Those things are brought to life mentally, and I'll explain that a little bit, because it's a rather um, deep concept that regular people don't understand, because it's something that you haven't been taught. It's something that I had to go deep into study and to understand the exact functioning of the universe and how the universe works within its laws. Um, some will say there's seven universal laws. Some will say there's nine universal laws. Um, I kind of dabble between the seven universal laws, and one of them is mentalism. And what's happening right now on the planet, with these riots and people hurting each other, and governments controlling uh, um, its populations, and corporations and billionaires and powers at play are starting to to activate agendas that have always been part of our existence. I mean, when you look at, let's just say, the teepee behind me, the structure, the frame of the teepee behind me, um, at, at some point, those those uh, those posts were a tree, and it took the mental capacity of somebody to take action and to harvest those trees, and to strip them of their bark, and to strip them of their branches, and to put them up into a structure that you have sitting behind me. So that's how things come into creation on this planet. Things come into creation on this planet because it was an idea that turned into an action, that turned into a material item, and it's been that way for eons and eons and eons. I mean, we're talking before civilization, man civilization here on this earth. It's been like that in other galaxies and other parts of the universe, and for us to be arrogant enough to think that we're the only ones in existence, that we're not alone. Or are we alone? No, we're not alone. Of course we're not alone. There's no way that we're alone. But that's something else. But going back to the mental capacity, and everything is energy in the universe as well too. Everything is energy, a vibration of sort, from sound to light to taste to touch. There's an electrical response, a vibration of sort that brings everything into creation. Everything is moving. Anything that is solid is vibrating at a rate so fast that you can't see it, feel it, hear it, touch it. Nothing. It is just this solid mass. And the things that are a little bit more fluid, like oxygen and air and water, those things are vibrating at a little bit slower vibration, so things are able to pass through them and around them. So there's a whole lot of science involved in this in these laws, and unless you've studied them, like I said, unless you studied them and understand them, they're kind of hard to explain to to a closed mind, especially a closed mind, because a closed mind will not will reject it, reject these ideas, and they're okay as long as they can justify them. But when it's beyond the scope of the five senses, then it's hard to understand what I'm talking about here. So let's just take the five senses and energy, and that's all I wanted to talk about was the mentalism and the energy laws of the universe. And we've got five senses: sight, sound, um, um, smell, taste, and touch. And the sight and sound are probably the most influential um, um, inputs into our brain that we process the most. We see things and we hear things. We often, we smell stuff and we taste stuff and we feel stuff all the time. And those also have a very, very large part of who we are. But I'm gonna take it to sight and sound as being the most impactful two things that the brain processes, because it's pretty simple to compare sight and sound to other animals. Even a dog has hearing more sensitive than the human being, so it can hear a broader spectrum of sounds than the human being can. It can also smell a broader spectrum of aromas than a human being can. So a hawk has eyesight that sees more higher definition and sharper than a human being, from way up above in the sky. So we can just understand that those senses are part of what the physical world around us is. So if you hear something off in the distance because you've heard it before, or you've identified it with a picture, like a train or a siren or a bird, you hear those things, and your brain has been taught to understand those things. So it creates the reality around you, the sounds and the images that you see through memorization and through repetitive input. You have the things that are around you, and so we understand the physical part around us, but what we don't understand is how the physical reality around us develops our ego, and how our ego is manipulated as to who we think we are and who we really are. And who we think we are and who we really are two different people. And the inputs, everything you feel, everything you smell, everything you taste, everything you see, and everything you hear, whether you're a small child or a 98-year-old man or woman, everything that has gone into these sensory organs, these sensory inputs, eyes, ears, mouth, smell, nose, touch, all these things have molded and shaped the ego, the personality, the character that you are today, from a small child to a teenager to a full-grown adult. Everything that anybody has ever said to you, done to you, um, uh, instructed you on, shown you, uh, lied to you about, uh, introduced you to. Anything is what makes up who you are. That's what your ego is. Your ego is your successes and your failures and your positive and negative inputs, and you're just sitting around thinking, um, why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Why do dogs bark? All those things that enter into the mind through the senses could not be possible without a mind. It is the mind, it is the brain that processes those vibrations into reality. So if you have somebody who is colorblind and has been colorblind their whole lives, they have no concept of color because the mind the cannot process color. Or if you have somebody who's deaf, they don't understand sound, and their realities are different than people with all five senses. They are absolutely different. Um, so the five senses creates the realities around us, and because of that, we we develop opinions, and we develop likes and dislikes, and we entertain what brings us pleasure, and we reject what brings us discomfort. So we've been trained to do this from small children, from from little bitty kids who couldn't walk, a little guy and a little gal who couldn't walk, to somebody who could walk and talk, to somebody who could start to ask questions, and then somebody who was put into the education system, and then that person went from the education system into the workforce. And throughout all this upbringing, you develop relationships with your family, and neighbors and friends and uncles and aunts and cousins, and everybody else, and then you enter into romantic relationships, and everything that happens to you there um, becomes who you are. So my point in all this background on mentalism and the mentality and the five senses, and how it works, is nothing around you would exist if you didn't have a mind. You would not be able to experience anything that you experience had you not developed an ego, and that ego is the I am. It is the me. It is the individual experience, point of view, perspective, and we're all doing it differently. We all have different inputs, and different positives and different negatives, and different opportunities, and different things that are inaccessible to us in life. And so we develop into these egos, but we're also individuals as well too. So what ends up happening, what is happening right now, with all these rioting and people hurting each other and destroying everything, and all these horrible things that are going on in these protests, are a result of all this input. It's a result of all this input, and this input. If you see the age of the kids who are out there rioting, if you see the age of the kids who are out there looting and destroying stuff, they're all young kids. And I remember growing up, and we used to listen to heavy metal, and we listened to music, and back then the Christians would say, "Oh, that's the devil's music, and that's this, and that's that, and that's the negative input," and they're absolutely right. Back then it was, but we weren't exposed to all the violence that these kids are exposed to now. We weren't desensitized to violence and understanding. I saw a meme the other day that said, "Oh, Minneapolis is like on a level 10 on Grand Theft Auto, or whatever. I don't know the levels of Grand Theft Auto, but it was they were ranking it as like the most destruction on Grand Theft Auto." And this is my point. The kids nowadays have grown up listening to the adults bicker and argue about finances, and unfair treatments, and all the racism, and these people are this, and these people are that, and these people are this, and they, from little guys and little gals, they grow up hearing this. They're told who to trust and who not to trust, and why this is happening, why this is happening, and then they get all that gets reinforced by TV and video games and entertainment and music and all these things. So these kids, they don't know. To them, this is a built up energy that has developed over the years of them being small infants and growing up to teenagers who can now pick up rocks and swing skateboards and throw trash cans through building and steal stuff that they see that is something that they want or they think they should have that they didn't work for. In all of this, there's not one of those people who are out there looting who has been suppressed, and none of them have been enslaved or tied to a tree and whipped or marched across the terrain in horrible conditions with all your belongings, being told that you need to move to this reservation or that this is no longer your land and we're taking this. None of these people have been through any of that. They've actually been pampered and babied in the fact that they're out there rioting and looting like there's some kind of oppressed people, is part of that mentalism. It's been downloaded into them. It's been downloaded into them to the point where all it took was a single energy, and the mental part and the energy part is where it clashed. The energy of excitement of violence and mischief and all the oppression that has been inputted into them over all these years has now been activated. It has been activated in them, and that's why they are running around destroying everything the way they're destroying it. This is not about a dead man. This is not about oppression. This is about what they have been exposed to their entire lives. And we're all responsible for it. We are all responsible for what is going on in those cities right now. We are all responsible for the governments and the corporations and the powers that have control over us in being able to execute everything that's going on us right now. We gave them that power. We gave away our power. We empowered those kids to go out there and do what they're doing right now. And now we're looking at them going, well, they shouldn't be doing that. You're a criminal. You're that. You're this. They weren't a criminal when they were doing it on video games. They weren't a criminal when they were watching it on TV. They weren't a criminal when they were listening to their parents suggest that, I'm going to go and blow up the IRS building, or I'm going to go blow up the police department, or all these cops are this and all these politicians are that. They weren't a criminal then because it wasn't a reality. And the reality now is that all those thoughts, all those ideas, all those suggestions are now becoming actions. And that is the mentalism part of this universe. That is the mentalism part of this existence, this reality that we live in. And now the energy has been introduced to that mentalism, and now you have this action. You have these kids out there rioting and looting and setting things on fire and doing all these things that they've been trained to do. They've literally, since infants, been trained to do what they're doing right now. And we're all at fault. I mean, we all had a hand in it, from sitting them down in front of the TV to letting them play video games so that they didn't bother us, or so we didn't have to entertain them or spend time with them. This is what happens. This is how it happens. And that energy is a global energy. Everybody's feeling that pent up energy. Everybody's feeling that oppressed energy. Everybody's feeling that energy, and that something's not right. And something's not right. Whether you didn't have anything to do with killing a man, or whether you feel that you didn't have anything to do with the economy or the pandemic that's going around, you absolutely did. Everything, every thought, every suggestion that you made in front of somebody or to yourself, or to try to defend yourself on social media or anything like that, that's all part of the collective consciousness. That's part of the energy that is floating around this earth right now. And this earth, the Mama Earth, has had enough of it. She's tired of men playing God. She's not happy with the genetically modified plants killing off her creations. She's tired of the uh, uh, the robbing of her resources. You know, we were put on this earth. My ancestors lived on this land for thousands of years, just off the land. There was no buildings, there was no highways, there was no roads or dams or any of that stuff. There was just the abundance of this land. There was nothing other than that. And that was enough. But becoming the mental society that we've become, the egotistical society that we've become, now we have to have material items. Now we need faster. Now we need fancier, more luxurious, more convenient items that are quite frankly produced in countries that use child slave labor and actually promote people to work for pennies on the dollar so that you can have the luxuries that you think you need. You know, the land was abundant before we got here. The land was abundant before people started needing fast cars and boats and ATVs and cell phones and all this, the microwaves and ready-made foods and GMO foods. You know, all these things are 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 are, are are things that were brought into creation by the mind, and now the vibration, the energy of these things is coming to pass. The karmic energy of what has happened to somebody else so that these people can have these things. Who has suffered so that these people over here who think their hands are clean, who have they destroyed over here behind the scenes? And how have they contributed to the destruction of what was already abundant and plentiful? And you know, the energy, it's like a cloud. You have a storm cloud, and that storm cloud moves over the land, and it collects a charge, and that charge builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and then boom, you have this bolt of lightning and this crash of thunder, and it's a discharge of energy. And that's what's happening right now, is the mentally created negative energy of society, of humanity, has built up so much that now it needs to discharge, and it needs to crash, and it's going to crash. And if you don't see that you contribute to the problem in this natural world, because in nature things don't lie. These trees do not lie to each other. The mountains do not lie to each other. The ground and the air do not lie to each other. The water does not lie to any of it. The fire does not lie. It is all truth. And what you are seeing happen in humanity is the lies and the corruption and the materialism and every bit of your involvement, and my involvement too. My involvement, my hands are not clean of it either. So don't get me wrong when in thinking that I'm pointing the finger at other people, because I include myself in this conversation. Um, this discharge of energy is about to just go, and if you don't see your part in it, the natural selection of this earth, the natural evolution of this earth, is going to rid you of itself. You know, it's been that way. It's happened before. You've been warned about it. Prayer and communion and fellowship and all these things, they matter to a certain extent. If you're doing it for yourself, if you're doing it for the show, and if you're doing it for look at, I'm part of this church, and these are the cool people to be in church with, and I'm wearing my Sunday best, and we washed a car, and we have a nice car because God has blessed us with a material item that personally I can't afford, but I'm making payments on it. But you know, if that's your spirituality and that's your go-to, and let's put your hands up and pray in the air, but on the same Sunday you go and complain at the waitress because she's not bringing your food out fast enough, that's not spirituality. That's a show. That is an illusion of spirituality, and that is the problem. Those are the problems on this earth. The soul is not secondary to the physical body. The physical body is secondary to the soul because the soul is eternal. The soul goes on after this physical body is ceases to exist. So those of you who believe in eternity, whether it's in heaven or hell, should understand this with no problem. Your soul is what you need to be in alignment with, not the Joneses next door because they got a nice lawn and you need a nice lawn. Not with the people across the street because he got a boat and now you need to get a boat. Not with the people that live down the road from you because their kids are in private school and your kids need to be in private school. None of that shit matters. None of that stuff matters. All that stuff is an illusion. It's the mentality. It's the ego that has taken over this earth, and that ego is right now destroying cities. That ego is now destroying our freedoms. That ego is now destroying every facet of what we hold beautiful and dear. And if we can't fix it, guess what? Nature is going to fix it for us. And the universe is speaking, the earth is speaking, the planets are speaking. Everything is in alignment for the right shift. The shift of energy that is occurring right now, the shift of leadership that is occurring right now on this planet. Everything is happening for a reason. And that reason is because we as a humanity have let the Creator down. The Creator has nothing that it can look down upon us and say, you know what, you people are, other than you people are funny, y'all have some endearing moments that I appreciate, but look at what y'all have done. Look at everything that has happened, from the wars to the division of communities and families and friendships over opinions, the destruction of the natural earth, the robbing of the natural resources and not giving anything back. The Creator is looking down on us going, you know what? I provided everything for you. Why are you genetically modifying this? Why are you trying to inject fetuses and embryos into people in order to control them? Why are you over here financing a TV or a couch when you're barely making ends meet? So the Creator is looking at us going, I love you guys, but you got to go. It's time for a little bit of punishment. It's time for a little bit of cleaning house. A little bit of hey, y'all been bad. Y'all been really, really bad. So although your souls will continue, it's time to wipe that mentality off this earth, and that's what's happening slowly but surely. And you know, we can prepare for it physically, but spiritually is where you need to be. Spiritually is where you need to be in alignment with, whether it's through your personal religion, Judaism, Christianity, your Muslim religion, your Hindu religion, your Buddhist religion, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the same Creator. It really doesn't matter whether you read Scripture or you read the intuition that comes into your heart and into your soul. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you're aware of what's going on and you're preparing yourself spiritually to either continue into this new world or to be wiped out of this new world, because you don't belong here. And the people who don't heed this message or understand this message are people who are still asleep. And this message isn't for you. I'm sorry. It's just not for you. But there are some people who are waking up and who are really struggling that need to hear this message. You know, I've studied, you know, for the last 10 years on these concepts, and until here recently, until I was able to cleanse myself physically of all the negativity and all the emotional baggage and the what do people think of me stuff. I was not able to heal and come to these conclusions wholefully until now. So this message is for certain people. It's not for everybody. But if you find this message empowering, let me know. I want to know who's part of my community. I want to know who's not part of my community. So like, subscribe, and be safe out there.